Hi, fellow speculators. This is Whisper of the Oracle. I'm your host, Juha Saarnilampi. Welcome. Let's talk about spoilers. This is now the 6th of April. We have 23 cards spoiled from the set, and some of them are real doozies. We have so far gotten only 2 Mystic Assassin, Mystic Illusionist, and Mystic Ninja cards. In addition, we've gotten several Mystic cards, and all of them are blue. We have finally learned what transcending means. We have not, however, learned very much about the rest of the set. If you look at these set numbers here, you can see that they end at 101. And this set has cards running up to 238, because one of them is a fabled. That means that there's 137 cards after this Stir the Pot that we still don't know about. And it's starting to look like, based on these numbers, that Stir the Pot is towards the end of all the Mystic cards. So maybe there are, the Mystic cards end at roughly 102 or 103 or something like that, depending on how many cards there are after Stir the Pot. And what that means is that there will be a ton of class cards that are non-talented. There might even be hybrid cards, and there will probably be a lot of generics as well. If we look at the groups of spoilers so far, we've gotten these legendary instants for each of the heroes. We've gotten this chakra cycle. We've gotten these 2 so far unnumbered blue mystic cards, blue mystic reactions, white blue yonder and big blue sky. Then we've gotten this set of blue attacks, which are pretty basic. They go from 2 attack all the way to 5 attack, and the pitch value grows, or the cost grows at the same rate. They all pitch for 3, and they all have this exact same text, which says if you played another blue card this turn, this gets +2 attack. And then we have these Transcend commons. So they are 0 cost blue commons that don't really do very much. They have like a tiny bonus ability. They either banish a card from an opposing hero's graveyard, they put a card back on the bottom of your deck from your graveyard, or they just shuffle the deck. There has never ever been a card that does this little, basically, if you ignore the Transcend part. But of course the Transcend part is the key part, because that enables your hero power. That gives you 3 resources, so it comes back to your hand as a blue, or more like a giga blue, which is like a blue that you can also use on your hero power. So of course that is the primary mode of these cards, and they just get a bonus. From everything we've seen thus far, this is the blue set. We are not very far into the spoiler season, but what we know already is that there's a very, very clear theme. And I'm not talking about blues only. Of course, there's a clear theme of blues, but there's another very clear theme, and that's instants. And teaching us as players, teaching all the new players to use instants and use the stack properly. And I have a couple examples of this to show you. First of all, let's talk about instants mattering in general. Let's take a very simple card, Tidal Surge. You've pitched a blue, you've attacked with it for 5. You have 1 card in hand. Your opponent maybe blocks it, maybe doesn't. Maybe they're like 9 or 10 life, so it's not lethal, that's fine. Even if you can play a blue card, it's not lethal, that's fine. So they take the 5, but before damage, you play Passover. So this, of course, is a blue card, and it pumps Tidal Surge by 2. Because Tidal Surge's ability is not when you attack, it's a constant ability that checks it all the time. So you get a pump of +2 when you play this in the reaction step. You banish a white blue yonder, and since you've played another blue card this turn, you transcend. And what does that mean? Well, that means that Passover comes back to your hand flipped. So it comes back to your hand as an inner chi, which can now pitch for blue for example, your hero power. And happily, in this example, your hero is new, so you can use that inner chi right away to pitch for new. You banish something off the top of your deck, it doesn't matter, because you already banished the white blue yonder. So you play the white blue yonder, you pitched a blue for Tidal Surge, you pitched the inner chi for your new ability, so that means you have 2 blue cards pitched, and it gives you another pump of +2. So this example is showing you how this set is very, very tricky. And it's not only tricky in the very traditional way of having attack reactions and defense reactions. Those are of course already present, but there are far more complex tricks that you need to account for in this set. And all the players, new players, old players, everybody needs to learn about instants and how those can be used at different times to gain an advantage. A second example of what this set is teaching us is to utilize the stack. And what do I mean by that? If you look at all the Transcend cards that we've seen so far, as a part of their resolution, they have this phrase, if you've played another blue card this turn, transcend. But that is of course checked only at resolution. So if you would do it the intuitive way and you'd say, okay, let's play Preserve Tradition, put this fantastic card that I have in my graveyard back to the top of my deck, and then because I want to draw it sometime in the future, let's shuffle my deck with Stir the Pot. Well, then Preserve Tradition wouldn't transcend you, but Stir the Pot would. So you would get one of these energies in your hand. But instead, if you do it the other way around, if you play Stir the Pot, don't pass priority, but instead respond to Stir the Pot with Preserve Tradition, then Preserve Tradition is on top of Stir the Pot on the stack. It resolves first, it puts that action card from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck, and then it checks if you played another blue card this turn, which you have since you have played Stir the Pot, even though it hasn't resolved, and then you get to Transcend and it comes back to your hand as an energy. Then Stir the Pot resolves and shuffles, and it checks again if you played another blue card this turn. Yes, you have. You played Preserve Tradition and it also resolved. You get to Transcend again. So as a result, what you get is two of these energies, and one of those you can, for example, use for Zen. You can create a Crouching Tiger in your hand. You can search your deck for a combo card. And since Preserve Tradition and Stir the Pot were both instants, you haven't even used your action point yet. So the other energy you have in your hand is now paying for the costs of your turn, whether they are weapon attacks or other cards that you have in hand. And this cost you just 2 cards. It put your best action card shuffled into your deck. It activated Zen's ability, giving you a combo card from your deck, giving you a Crouching Tiger in your hand, and you have an extra 3 resources to use to pay for the rest of your turn. These very tiny effects, or tiny looking effects of Stir the Pot and Preserve Tradition and so on, they look like they are a risk, which they are, of course. They don't block and they don't really change the board in any meaningful way. But if you can combine them together in synergistic ways, either within the cards or just playing 2 of these, whatever they are, back to back so that they both transcend and you get 6 resources to use on your hero abilities on the cards for your turn. Maybe there are other cards in the set. Maybe there's equipment or other things that you can use these chi resources for. And I think it's an interesting way to teach new players about the stack as well, because this is second nature to experienced players. But it's not very intuitive to have to play these back to back in order to get both of their abilities. So those were some examples of how the set is teaching us about instants, how to utilize the stack, etc. But of course we have a lot of questions remaining, and these are my top 4. First of all, what is the split of the 137 cards after Stir the Pot? There will be class cards that are non-talented, there will be generics for sure, but will there also be hybrid cards? Whatever it is, there's a lot of them. Secondly, what do the core class cards for each hero do? One thing we know for sure is that there will surely be stealth cards for new, but what will those stealth cards be doing? Are they going to be very similar 0 for 3s with a different ability than the ones we got in Outsiders? Or are they going to be completely different, with a different cost curve, with completely different abilities I'm expecting? Maybe they're creating Fang Strikes and Slithers, so that will be super interesting also for Uzuri's sake. That brings me to the third question. What on earth are Fang Strike and Slither? The Sacred Art Undercurrent Desires for new says that it creates these 2 cards in your hand. So they have to be ephemeral cards, kind of like Crouching Tiger. But what do they do? That will be super interesting to know, because that will probably tell us the core gameplay loop of new. Finally, I would like to understand what are the draft dimensions beyond class and generic. And when I say generic here, I also include Mystic, because if all the heroes in the set can play Mystic cards, then Mystic is basically the same as generic. But that's not a very interesting shape of a draft format, right? It's kind of like Welcome to Wraith with 3 heroes. You can only pick your class cards or you can pick your generics, which everybody can stay open with. But that's surely not the end of the story. So I'm expecting things like possibly hybrid cards, possibly cards that interact with 2 of the hero's abilities but not with the third. So a good example here would be something that interacts with these ephemeral cards. So if you have created a card in your hand this turn, do X, so that it hits both the Crouching Tigers and the Fang Strikes and the Slithers, but Enigma would be kind of left out. Thank you so much for watching. Here's another video for you to watch, and please subscribe. It's always super appreciated. Until next time, stay curious, folks.